We are recording. All right, everybody. Well, once again, welcome to Paradise in Panama. This is a Panama 101 where we are geared towards telling you all the fun facts and details that you need to know about this wonderful country. There's a lot of detail to go through. It'll be about an hour long, so bear with us. If you have any questions that you want to get answered, we're going to go through those at the end of the presentation, so just jot that down there in the Q&A section that we were just testing. And in addition to that, if there are any documents we request throughout or we mentioned during the webinar, you can always request those at webinar@ecidevelopment.com. So once again, welcome everyone. My name is Rachel Jensen. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for ECI Development. I'm a resident of Panama. I received my residency about 4 or 5 years ago at this point. Although I am currently living and working in Belize, I see Panama on my horizon in the near future. So I'm very excited for that. But with Panama, I got my residency there because it was just one of the easiest residencies in the world to obtain. So I applied for it, got accepted, and I specifically did it through the TEAK program. I think some of you have heard about us talk about ownership of TEAK as a means to get residency. But the nice part is, even though I don't necessarily need it now, I have it in my back pocket, super easy to maintain, and gives me the ability and access to the country should I choose. But as I mentioned, I'm living here in Belize. I'm originally from New York, made my way down to Latin America in 2012. When I first moved to Nicaragua, I was there for about 1.5 years. And over the years, I've just been shuffling around the different countries here in the region and figuring out where feels right. And maybe that's the same path that you're on right now, is you're not too sure where it is you want to be, or you're still exploring the region. And so Panama probably is on your radar since you're here on the webinar with us. But for those of you who are still exploring, we're happy to have you on. And because we do have quite a bit of experience of living and working in this region, if perhaps you're thinking Belize or you're thinking Nicaragua, let us know and we can certainly send you that information as well. So with me today, I also have lovely Leslie. Leslie, why don't you give us a little bit more about your backstory and then we'll jump right in.
Absolutely. Like she said, my name is Leslie Lawrence and I'm a property consultant here with ECI Development. My journey to Belize started in Texas, where I was born and raised. And I had been in a 20-year corporate career and kind of was over the rat race and decided to take a trip to Belize. And next thing you know, I was going back home and selling everything, packing up and telling my family I'm moving to Belize. So did they think I was crazy? Probably so, some of them. But for me, it was just that time to embrace a simpler life. And I also live and work here in Belize. I love it. And for Panama, I have kind of a funny story. So I have not got to go there yet. I'm very excited to learn more from Rachel tonight. But the fun story with Panama is my dogs have been there, but I have not. Yes, you heard that right. My 2 rescue dogs have been to Panama, but I have not. That's a whole other story. So ask me about it sometime,
Mom,
and I'll tell you about
vacation. Going on vacation. Bye, Mom.
Absolutely. So we're glad to have you here with us tonight.
Awesome.
So, okay, we're going to jump right in. Let's tell a little bit about ECI and who we are. We're a regional development company. We provide high quality residential and rentals, mainly for expats and then investors. We've been in business over 20 years, so we have stability, and I know that's very important for people when you're looking at, making an investment overseas and learning about overseas properties. So big thing for us is diversification for our consumers. That's a huge thing because, as you can see, we have Marriott Property Belize, we've got Best Western brands, tiny homes, condos, teak agricultural land, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, we could go on and on. Obviously Panama tonight we're going to talk about, and then future acquisitions. This is very exciting to me. I don't know about you, Rachel. Mike, our CEO, is currently in Mexico scouting out some fun things there. We have, we're looking at vineyards, yes, which could possibly be Argentina, Chile, tropical highlands, which could be Ecuador, Colombia. So stay tuned, lots of fun things coming down the road. Okay, again, Belize 101, Nicaragua 101. We've done these webinars as well. Request your free copy, webinar@ecidevelopment.com.
Perfect. And so obviously as Leslie mentioned, we're focusing on Panama during this presentation, but because it's not uncommon for folks to be checking out multiple countries, I know Belize is probably one of the top countries that we're getting information requested for all the time. So if you'd like any more information about the countries that we're not talking about tonight, then just feel free to reach out to us. We've done these webinars for the different countries, and use that email address that you see there on the screen, and we'll send those over to you.
Okay, we like to have a little fun with some questions. So find that Q&A section. Have you ever been to Panama? And guess what? There's no wrong or right answer for this one. So yes or not yet. Rachel's a yes, I'm a not yet. Hopefully once this crazy year of travel, we can make it there this year.
So I'm seeing no, yes, no. All right, so it looks like no, not yet. It's a good mix of people. I would say probably about 50-50. So for those of you who have been, I'm glad that it's continuing to be on your radar. And those who haven't been yet, hopefully you're enticed enough to come down and join us at some point.
Awesome. So for those of you who have not been, where is Panama? Obviously, it sits between, it's called the Bridge of the Americas. You've got a population of over 4 billion. The country size, did a little research with Rachel's help. It's a little smaller than South Carolina. Mm-hmm. It does have a democratic republic. You've got the currency is the Panamanian balboa, which is a 1-to-1 ratio. And Panama City is known as the Miami of Latin America, basically because of the large business hub, and we'll touch base about that some more.
Yes, exactly. So when it comes to destinations in Latin America, and let's say you're looking at real estate ownership from an investment perspective, this graph that you see here on the screen, this chart really is geared towards folks who are looking at real estate ownership from an investment perspective. And depending where you're looking or what you're looking for will depend where in the region it is that you're looking. So at the top part of the curve, you see countries that are more mature in the tourism destination location. So they've been around for a couple of decades now. They're mature, they're producing cash flow, but the entry pricing into these countries up here may not necessarily be as entry as countries at the bottom part of the curve, because they are more mature. There's already a tourism destination and tourist group going. At the bottom part of the curve, you see countries that are more likely to appreciate over time. So it's low entry in, but you're not necessarily getting all that tourism that you would if you were in a country at the top part of the curve. So I know a lot of us want the best of both worlds. We want properties that are going to appreciate. We want properties that are already cash flowing. Belize, it tends to be that really great spot, but I'd say Panama can even be thin sliced a little bit more. And a couple of the areas that we're going to talk about today are within that middle part of the curve where they're not yet plateaued in terms of pricing. Like think Pacific Costa Rica, for example. Probably everyone you know, or you probably know at least somebody who's been to Pacific Costa Rica before, the Guanacaste area. And so when you're looking at properties there, it's more expensive. Panama as a whole is similar to Pacific Costa Rica, but then you can even sub-survey it or subdivide it into smaller parts of the region. And then they would flow differently on this curve here. But Panama, I'd still say there are really great opportunities that you can get in affordably, but do know that it is going to be more expensive than in Nicaragua and in some cases Belize as well. So this is what our agenda looks like over the next 45 minutes. We're going to cover why Panama. There are 8 top reasons why people are deciding to either live or invest in Panama today. We're going to talk about some generalities about living in the country, and then we're going to go through your questions and answers. So let's get started. All right, so you're going to start us off, Leslie? Or am I starting? I don't remember which one was going to start here, but it's me. All right. All right, perfect. So just so everybody's aware, Panama does have very easy access into other parts of the world. And one of the big airlines is because Copa Airlines is based within Panama City. It's a very big airline and it has a huge international reach. So it's fairly easy to get in between the areas and getting directly into Panama City. This is huge. I know for us in Belize, we definitely do not have as many direct routes here, but if you just look there, you see that you're able to get to Europe, you're able to easily get to South America, you're able to get to North America as well. So it's very, very convenient and easy to get to. And then where the planes go, the people go. And this we know, this we've seen over the years. Copa Airlines, I mentioned it before, it's one of the big airlines that's going down, but you also have the traditional US-based airlines, the Delta, the United, the American.
Okay, so why Panama? Number 2, strong economy. And you can see there we have a regional ranking and Panama is number 9. So the GDP growth over the past 5 years has been solid due to Panama's role as logistics and financial hub. And one of those reasons is the Panama Canal. So this shows the total revenue generated from the canal. And in 2019, it was 2.59 billion. Yes. That's right, billion. So the Panama Canal generates a ton of revenue there, which is great for Panama. And we'll explain that more in the future.
Exactly. And so here we see strong economy, and really emphasizing this concept of strong economy is what we want to do here. And when we have something like the Panama Canal, where it's bringing in over $2.5 billion per year into the country. What that means is there's opportunity for infrastructure growth, which we're going to be talking about. But think of the Panama Canal essentially as an ATM for the country. Every time a boat goes through, oh my gosh, my water bottle, using my hands here too much. Every time a boat goes through, it's cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's like an ATM machine essentially. So this is one of the big benefits that the other Central American countries don't have, creating a lot of stability as well.
Right, and you can see there the industry sectors in Panama. We won't go through all of those, but that bright royal blue is, guess what, transport and communication, so Panama Canal. Also wholesale, you can see in the financial services, which again, we've discussed banking, and we'll highlight that. So stability, it all comes back to stability. That is a key factor when people are looking at Panama. It's one of the greatest financial hubs in Latin America.
Yeah, exactly. And that segues really nicely into the next point here, which is the favorable banking. So because Panama has structured such strong banking laws and regulations, it's become really the hub of the banking systems within the Americas. It has 62 local and international banks. It's a place that is easy enough for North Americans to get bank accounts. And because there are so many banks located in the area, just as Leslie mentioned, it is really referred to as the Miami of the Americas because it has that strong banking system. It has the strong economy. It's a very international country. A lot of the business really happens within Panama City. So that's where you tend to find a lot of the diversity. It's a very metropolitan city as well, but because there is such a strong banking system there, it brings a lot of opportunities. It brings a lot of businesses into the country.
And another reason why Panama, this is a big one, especially I think for females and people that travel there alone, is the safety.
Yes.
And as you can see, it's the 4th safest out of all 33 countries, territories in Latin America. You can see they're safest country to retire in Latin America. It makes the top 5. So again, we can't stress enough the safety.
Yeah, and even just to touch upon that safety point, I know over the years of working in this industry in the real estate sector, one of the points that I've learned about too is families who are coming down, right? So if you're bringing your kids or you're just planning perhaps to have a family down there, or you just generally want to know that you're going to be in a safe location, Panama continues to provide that safe option for people. And I just want to highlight this again. I know you just read it, but like this is huge. It's the 4th safest country in the 33 countries within Latin America. That's significant. That truly is significant. And so safety says it all. And here being at number 4 out of 33 is a real positive. And then just going back to that infrastructure comment for a moment. So we talked about the Panama Canal, and as a result of the Panama Canal and all of these banking institutions and businesses that are happening there within the country, there is improved infrastructure that goes into the country. And we work throughout Latin America, so we've seen the development of these countries over the years. And with this country, it's been incredible to see. Within Panama City, it feels like it's that metropolitan, cosmopolitan city where we don't quite have that in Nicaragua. We don't quite have that in Belize. And so it's neat to see. But the expansion of their metro system, this was huge. I think it was back, I don't remember, about 7-8 years ago when they first opened the metro system, and they've been expanding since. Going to the airport has been a big part of that expansion as well. So you'd be able to get from Panama City to the international airport. In addition to that, the Panama City to Cherokee train. Again, all these things that just help with the growth of the country. The Panama Canal 4th bridge, for those of you who've been to Panama before, and if you're ever trying to leave Panama City during rush hour, maybe now over the past year, it's been a little bit quieter in terms of traffic, but something that was not really done too well initially was the infrastructure there. So having another bridge will help mitigate the traffic and whatnot that was there previously. And then just more ports and areas for these big ships that are coming in, because we do know the Panama Canal serves a tremendous amount of business for the entire country. And in addition to that, Panama really is quite geographically diverse. It's a small country, as Leslie mentioned, but there's a lot going on, and it's a very unique country too, because when you look at the geographic layout of it, to the north part of the country is where we have the Caribbean, and to the south part of the country is where we have the Pacific. So I know usually we're used to east and west, so it just creates a little bit of something that's different there for the country. But I do want to highlight some of the key parts here within Panama. So now let's go to F, letter F first. So that is Panama City. If you're coming into the country, you'll fly into Panama City. And then from there, you're able to get out to the different locations as well. One of my favorites, and I see we don't have a picture there, but it's letter J, it's the Pearl Islands. It's super easy to get to from Panama City. It's about an hour, 45-minute, 2-hour ferry that goes from Panama City directly to the island. So you're able to do a day trip if perhaps you're spending some time in Panama City doing residencies or whatnot. If you're looking for a developed expat community, then letter K, that's Coronado. That tends to be a very popular place. It's only about an hour and a half from Panama City. In addition, El Pedesi over here is where you have a lot of the surfing communities. E as well, you see a lot of surfing and fishing in this area too. This is Los Islotes. This is the property that we've joint ventured on. And then when you get to the west side of the country, you say CAG. So C over there is Boquete. Boquete is a very well-known tourist and expat destination. It's really well known because of the fact that it has a cooler climate. So if you are somebody who prefers mid 70s during the day, low 60s at night, then this could be the right area for you. But within this region over here, there's a lot of hiking trails and volcanoes that you can hike, which is pretty neat, and whitewater rafting and creeks and rivers and jungle sort of setting. When you get to A, that's Grand Highlands. That's one of the new properties that we're not debuting on this webinar, but we will be in a few weeks. And then we have G, which is the David Airport. And from David, you can also fly into Costa Rica, which is what we border on the left side of the screen there. But the David Airport will get you to and from Panama City within 45 minutes. Otherwise, you can drive from Panama City there to David, and it'll take you about 5.5, 6 hours. And going back to this concept of infrastructure, I can't even emphasize how important it is to be going into a country that has great roads. And the Pan American Highway, for example, it goes from, obviously goes for the entire country, but it stops a little bit before Colombia, and then you're able to take a ferry over to Colombia should you choose to do so. But the terrain there is just a little too rough to be continuing the Pan American Highway through, but it's a smooth shot. And so Panama really does a great job at making sure that their roads are well taken care of as well, in public transportation too. So there's busing systems. We saw within Panama City, they have the metro there. There are cabs. What I really like is that there's Uber. So this, it sounds so silly, but there were times I would get into cabs and I'm traveling by myself and they'd be like, all right, it's $15 to go to that location. Meanwhile, I just paid $3 in the other cab. And then you're going through this whole haggling and fine, that's great. But at the end of the day, when you can just open up your app, you can request an Uber. You can have Ubers that speak in English, or you can have Ubers that are Spanish speakers and not speaking English. Then you can decide which one you want, and you can see the fare right there, and then you're set, and you're not feeling like you're ripped off. But it's really neat that Uber does work there in the country. So probably within different areas, it's not all throughout the country, but pretty neat to see. Definitely works within Panama City. So there's just a lot of activities. Oh, let me continue on with the map here. So H, that is one of my favorite areas. It is the San Blas Island, or sorry, it's the Bocas del Toro. San Blas is over a little bit. It's Bocas del Toro. It's a really beautiful area, the Caribbean islands. Then you can get up to D, and that's where you'll find the start of the Panama Canal. And then I over there is San Blas. And I is where it's an indigenous area, so it's protected. And you're not able to, you could spend the night if you want, but you'd probably be in a hammock or some basic accommodations. But they don't necessarily have the utilities there. If you're ever looking to get off the grid for a day or two, that would definitely be the place to go. And then in addition to that, we have our teak farms, which is B, that's on the east side of the country. It's about a 3.5-hour drive to get from Panama City to the teak farms, but it's worth seeing, of course, if you are an investor or you are looking at ownership of teak. So that just gives you a quick highlight of the country. There's a lot within the country that's not highlighted here, but I know many of you are looking at residency in Panama, and so you will have to spend some time in the country as you're going through the residency process. And so I like to highlight some of these because it's a fun thing to do while you're there in country. Go rent a car or hop on a plane and head over to Boquete, and you can see quite a bit of the country.
Okay, we're back to a question. In what year did Panama gain its independence? A, 1815, B, 1821, C, 1812, or D, none of the above? Find that Q&A section.
Awesome. And also jot it down on a piece of paper. We're going to review the answers at the end. So you can try to memorize what you put, or you can type it in here too. That'll work as well. But we'll give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Alrighty, perfect.
Okay, so number 7, world-class healthcare. They have two, I think this is important to note, they have two JCI accredited hospitals in Panama City.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another important thing and factors for expats or people moving to the area is the healthcare.
Yes.
So they have public, social security,
Mm-hmm.
as well as private. So three different systems, and it's a huge hub for
Mm-hmm.
medical tourism.
Yes, and one of the big reasons it is the hub for medical tourism is because of those JCI accredited. So if you haven't heard of that term, JCI accredited hospitals, what it means is that it meets an international standard. So not every country has a JCI accredited hospital. There's one in Nicaragua, there's two in Panama, and because it has this international standard, if you're coming down for medical tourism or if you need to get healthcare services done, it provides a lot more comfort knowing that you're going into a place that's been vetted and approved. And so if you're moving down to Panama, I would recommend that you typically stay with the private healthcare. If you're from North America, you tend to have this jaded outlook on how much healthcare costs when all around the world it costs a fraction of that. So there are different insurance plans available. If you're looking to be an expat, there's BUPA, BUPA, which you're able to get. There are a couple of other Cignas, the one that I personally use, that's CIGNA. And you can pick what kind of health insurance you want. You can get the full package, or you can get ones that just work within that region that you're in. You get ones that are good for North America and then down for the country you're in too. But it tends that the healthcare is so affordable in this part of the world that you don't necessarily even need insurance. Now, of course, that's all based on what you're looking for and what level of comfort you have. But I've gone to the dentist there in Panama before. I got a cleaning for, I think it was $30, $40 US. Ended up having to get some cavities in. And with all of that, it came out to about $70, $80 US. Didn't even try to use insurance. It was just easier to pay out of pocket. But there are a lot of stories like that where people are able to get these services done for just a fraction of the cost. So there are a lot of great hospitals there within the country. And so it's always important to note, especially as Panama is there on your radar. And then another big factor and reason why people are coming down to Panama is because of the attractive residency programs. And there are many different residency programs. I'm going to highlight two of the most popular. The first one is the Pensionado program. This is good for retirees, and you must draw a pension of $1,000 a month. I have had people ask me before if their investment income works, and that does not work. It does need to specifically be a pension. You can obtain discounts in the country, but you can also get those discounts under the Friendly Nations visa as long as you meet that age criteria, and then you cannot work in the country. So this is important to note because I think a lot of times, especially those who are entrepreneurial and always moving, you think you want to slow down life and get out of the rat race. Then after day 7, you're like sitting on the beach twiddling your thumbs. And so you're looking for something to do. And so if you're that kind of person, I would highly recommend the Friendly Nations visa, which is the next residency there. And for this residency, you can be any age. There are 3 ways that you can obtain this residency. One is if you have an investment of $10,000 or more in real estate. Another is if you open an active business. And the third is if you find employment. So typically we work with folks who typically invest at least $10,000 in the products that we have. And then from there, they're able to get their residency. And what's really neat about the Friendly Nations visa is that you can be the primary applicant. You can add your parents as the dependents. You can add your children as dependents as well, up to 18 if they're not enrolled in college, or up to 25 if they are enrolled in college. And like the Pensionado program, once you hit a certain age, you're able to get those certain discounts on the airlines and hotels and certain restaurants. So you are eligible for that too. Now, one of the reasons this tends to be the more popular program is because it's super easy to maintain. You only have to visit 1 day every 6 years. Like with the Pensionado, you need to show that you have this ongoing income. With the Friendly Nations visa, you do not. Now, there are a lot of details to this residency, but I'm going to just quickly highlight some of the top benefits. And if anybody's personally interested, our team can talk to you about it. But a couple of the benefits of residency, and I'd say that Panama is the easiest residency program out there right now, this Friendly Nations visa. And if you're just looking to get started on doing something, then I would highly recommend this visa right here. There are many people I've talked to today that didn't really know where to start because maybe they're thinking about this from the lifestyle perspective and want to visit this country and that country and another country. Well, the best thing you can do, at least right now, is secure and protect your most important asset, which is yourself. And you do that by getting residency in another country. Even if you don't plan on living in Panama, at least put this in your back pocket like I did when I was going through the process 5-6 years ago. But the benefits is that you can live in the country full time. This is big, even if it's not a place you may intend to live in. The nice part is that you have that option down the line should you choose. In addition, it's permanent, so you don't need to reapply. Once you have it for life. Then you get a cedula, which is your identification card. And then that cedula, you just have to renew every 10 years. It's like $25, $30 US, so super easy, but you don't have any ongoing requirements. You don't need to reapply for the residency or anything along those lines. In addition, you only have to visit one day every 6 years. And this is a big reason why people choose the Friendly Nations visa initially, at least while starting out, because we may not necessarily know where it is that we want to end up, but at least having something is better than nothing. And so by only having to visit one day every 6 years, it becomes a lot more manageable. And then should you choose to live there, you can work in the country, and it can lead to a passport down the line should you choose. And here's just an overview of the residency. I'd be happy to talk about it with you. A couple of my team members and I have gone through the process before. So we are permanent residents of the country. And I just do want to note that you have to open up a bank account, and then you'll register with immigration. And we have a coordinator who goes through all of this with you. She goes through all the paperwork. But your second trip down will be about 4 to 6 months later after you get approved. And that would be to pick up your residency card and then just maintain your status by visiting. It's very, very easy.
Okay, so let's just recap why Panama. We'll go through the top 8 again. Easy access worldwide, strong economy, favorable banking systems, safety is a big one, developed infrastructure, geographically diverse, world-class healthcare, and the attractive residency programs make Panama a great place to choose.
Yes, and there's one more point that I do want to mention as well, which is the established expat communities. And for those of you who are thinking about relocating, community probably is something that you're thinking about. And perhaps you don't know anybody in Panama, or you are still trying to figure out where you want to be. The neat part is there are so many different communities and different networks within the country that you can really start to build relationships and build your communities prior to you getting down there. I'm in Belize now, and it's funny to say, but one of our primary modes of communication on the island we're on is through Facebook. And so we have all of these different Facebook groups. One is our Ambergris Immigrants page. One is a fun finder, which lets us know what's going on every day of the week. And so there are these sort of networks too. And even if you may not be a Facebook person, maybe you just start one if you're looking to do something overseas, because tapping into these sort of networks will be critical for you to be able to find that community. And also because Panama is such an international place, because in Panama City specifically, there's such an international network, you're able to find the specific restaurants that you may like, or perhaps the different grocery stores. And I did put one of the kosher one, because I had somebody on our last call who was asking me about the kosher supermarkets and if there's availability of them and if they're there in the country. So you're able to find this. And I think Panama is probably one of the best countries for being diverse, because there is such an international hub here. So just note that there are different ways and different outlets for you to get involved. And especially if you are looking to relocate, is finding those expat communities and finding the networks where you're
Sorry about that, everybody. Looks like we lost Rachel and Leslie there. They will be joining us in just a few seconds. Thanks so much for your patience. All right, well, while we wait for Rachel and Leslie to join us back, everybody, we will just go ahead towards the final portion of the presentation here. And before we end off and go into the question and answer section, I did want to talk a little bit about our upcoming presentations here. This was something that Rachel touched on a little bit earlier in the presentation, but we're having our TEAC residency webinar that's taking place on March 16th. That is going to have all the information that you would need to learn about how you can obtain that second residency, that plan B that Rachel was talking about. And we also have another exciting one there that is our Grand Highlands Panama Freedom Village Tiny Homes launch. That's going to be taking place later this month on March 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern. And I think that dinging sound means that Rachel and Leslie were able to join us back. Hello, ladies.
I think we're back. I'm going to take our video off because I think they're working on the internet outside and nobody gave us a heads up. So I apologize, guys, but we are back. And yes, Ivan, that's exactly right. We have a couple of webinars coming up. So please join us if you are interested in learning more about residency or the TEAC program or just the tiny homes generally that we will be debuting. So really excited about that. And we can just go to the next slide here. Okay, great. So I do want to give you a quick overview about Grand Highlands. This is an area located by Boquete. It's in between Boquete and David. So when we looked at that map earlier and I showed you the CAG, so right over there, A would be the Grand Highlands. And it's a property that we acquired last year. We've spent the last year going through the surveying and really identifying what would be a great use of this space. And what we've identified is it's about 110 acres, that there will be a certain area for tiny homes. We'll have single family home lots. We'll also have condominiums. But what's really going to make this property is the fact that there are rivers and creeks throughout it. We already have an apple or orange grove rather that's going. And in addition to that, we'll have an artisan market and we'll have hiking trails and all of these areas for people to come together and have that third space. We'll have a natural lake there as well. And I think I said yoga platform. I don't know. There's just a lot going on. I'm really excited about this. This is one project that I'm truly excited to start. I was out on the site last year and got a good scope and feel of the property. And when you stand at the top part of the property where it says 3 and 2, which is the top part of the map there, the property is on a slight decline. So as you stand at the top and you look around, you have 270-degree views of the mountains that are around you. You have the creeks and the rivers, and it's just such a stunning outdoor property. So why don't we switch over to the next slide here, please? And we'll be able to tell you a little bit more about what's going on. So our first launch within this property is going to be the tiny homes. And we have models that range from 350 square feet up to a little over 600. And what I really do want to highlight here is the fact that that's just the under roof space. So I get this question all the time is how big is it going to be? And they hear 300 square feet. Yes, it's a tiny home, but you do also want to consider the fact that you are in the tropics. So you live outdoors. So having this patio, having the rooftop terrace, having this is really important. And so in addition to having the homes and the space in the interior, you do have the outdoor. And we mentioned the yoga platform and the third spaces for people to come together. And that's all critical. And if you request the site map, you will see that all the information in there. And just yesterday our marketing team debuted a preliminary overview of this community. So if anybody is interested in that, just let us know and we'll be able to get those details to you. All right, next slide here, please. And
I believe you guys were in this section here, Rachel. Do you want to continue from there or?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll just jump right in. All right, so going back to the expat communities, as I mentioned, if you want to tap into it, it is important for you to be reaching out to the different networks. And within the different areas, like Boquete is one that we talked about. Coronado is another popular expat area. Bocas del Toro, if you're looking for the Caribbean side. And each of them have their own clubs, have their own events going on. And so you're able to jump into that should you choose. But yeah, I would imagine community is important to those of you who are looking to relocate. But if not, then you can ignore my advice here. All right, we'll go to the next slide, please. All right, so we did this one. We'll continue on. All right, good. Living in Panama. We'll jump to the next slide there. So going back to the whole concept of living in the country. So I'm curious, and we'll hear about this in the Q&A section, who is thinking about living there versus who is thinking about investing there and perhaps living there at some point, or maybe a mix of both. But what's true across the board, whether you're looking at Panama or any other country, is the fact that you're going to have local goods versus imported goods. And if you're trying to keep your expenses down, go for the local products. If you're going for the imported ones, you're going to probably be paying a base price plus the import tax plus another tax plus another. So you're going to have a more expensive product. And sometimes it is better quality, so it's worth paying for the higher quality product. But just bear that in mind. I mean, even something as simple as going to the grocery store and finding local tortilla chips versus the Tostitos brand, there you'll even see a difference in the prices too. Other considerations like an AC versus a fan, right? Do you need an AC where you're going, or is a fan sufficient? If you're in Boquete, fan probably works. If you're in Panama City, which is hot and humid, you probably want an AC. So those are things to consider as well. And then also, as you're preparing your budget, are you planning to have a private vehicle, or are you going to have public transportation? Obviously, having a private vehicle will make your budget a little bit higher than if you're planning to use public transportation. So just keep these considerations in the back of your mind. There's also, depending where in Panama you live, will depend on what your budget should be. And if you'll see there sitting, or if you're in city life, it's going to be more expensive than if you were in country life. And then in between there, you have the expat community. And of course, this could vary tremendously depending on your lifestyle. But on the right-hand side there is a cost estimate based on the specific area that you could be looking at. Again, but it really just depends on your specific lifestyle and how it is you're going to budget. And I can tell you, even here on the island we're on Ambergris Key, and you have people who are living like tourists every single day, which means, you know, they're going to the higher end restaurants and they're doing the more expensive activities. And then you have, you know, us who are like, all right, well, where can we get a nice $5 tray of food that we can save for dinner later too? So, you know, they're definitely a very similar sort of concept when you're moving to another country. And one recommendation I'm going to make to you is something that you may have heard Mike Cobb say when he talks about the 15 questions webinar is, you know, forget what you think you know. You're moving to another country. You know, don't come in with these expectations that it's going to be like it is in your home country. I think that's why many of us are moving, is to get away from those sort of things. But just know that things are a little bit slower and you're in a developing country, so it will be a little bit different. We'll go to the next slide, please. All right, and then also, so transportation within the city, within Panama City, there's a lot of great transportation. There are taxi, bikes, walking. There are also public buses that go throughout various parts of the country, and they call these the Diablo Rojos, but they're public buses. They are previously old school buses that they've refurbished, and as you can see there, put some artwork on, and that's what you'll see going around the community. But you'll also see another consideration for you to bear in mind is how close do you want to be to things? If you're living in Panama City, well, then you're probably within walking distance to a lot, or call an Uber. If you're in more of the countryside, are you planning to have a car? So again, these are things that are more lifestyle based, but things that are important to be considering as you're thinking about your new life abroad. Let's switch over slides, please. And then within the country, there are a lot of things for you to do. Because we do have the Caribbean and we also do have the Pacific. There's really great fishing that's happening. And I showed you on that map a little bit earlier, there were the Pearl Islands, which are about southeast of Panama City, Pearl Islands, the Contender Islands, and even on the east side of the country, there on the coast, like towards the Darien, there's really great fishing lodges that provide unique experiences for folks, diving, kayaking, snorkeling. And next slide, please, all of these fun sort of water activities. And in addition to that, Panama did take a break over the past year from their festivals and whatnot, but typically they do have a lot of really fun activities that are happening throughout the year. The one of them, and I think is the neat one, is the Boquete Coffee and Flower Festival. This happens every January. And then also the Jazz Festival. I remember I was there a few years ago, and it was like a beer festival too. And then there was another one that was a wine and cheese festival. So there are a lot of different things to do. And if going to events and going to different festivals is something that's important to you from the lifestyle perspective, then I would definitely be considering Panama. It's one of the countries that I've been to that tends to have the most to do in terms of cultural events and experiences. Let's go to the next slide. All right.
What is the largest city in Panama? Were you paying attention? A, Cologne, B,
Pacora.
C,
Chitre.
You need some help here. D, Panama City.
So we did kind of give it away a little bit earlier, but you can either type there into the Q&A section or just write it down on your piece of paper. What is the largest city? A, Cologne, B, Pacora, C, Chitre, or D, Panama City. All right, next slide. And this is going to be the slide where we review the answers. So
how did you do? Number 1, this was what year did Panama gain its independence? Yes. B, 1821. How did you do? 2, what year did the Panama Canal open? It's B, 1914. And of course, the largest city is Panama City.
Yes, awesome. So I hope you all did well. I know we gave you some clues for 2 and 3. We didn't even touch upon number 1 there, but hopefully you did well. Let's continue on here, Ivan. All right, so here are some things for you to consider as you are looking at your real estate options or your lifestyle options abroad. One is if you do decide to own with us within ECI development, know that we do accept cryptocurrencies. We also have financing available. We typically have up to 80% financing available. So it just makes it a little bit easier for folks to be able to invest in properties in other countries. And then in addition to that, we like to provide our clients with turnkey solutions. So we understand that this is a big decision for you if you're planning to relocate. And so we can help you with that residency process, with the relocation process, with getting all your ducks in a row, making sure your legal documents are covered. And our team members, and this is something that I really pride our team members on, is the fact that they've all been through a process like this before. They've all moved to another country. They have residency or citizenship or got their work permits in another country. They may speak another language. There's a lot that they have experienced. And our goal is to make sure that we're able to make it an easy experience for you, because we've been there and done that and understand the benefits of it. So if you are looking to relocate, we can provide you the resources. If you're looking to invest, we can provide you with those resources. And let's just jump to the next slide here, Ivan. And here are a couple of our other team members that I do want to highlight. Obviously, we have Leslie here with us on the screen, but you may have heard from some of the other members there before: Andrea, Betsy, Gian, Joe. We have Katie, Leslie, obviously, Natalie, Sarah, or Sarita. So we have a really extensive team here who I said before have really gone through these processes before that we're talking about. So let's jump over to the next slide. And then if you would like a copy of the Panama Handbook, message us at webinar@ecidevelopment.com. We really just started to touch upon the basics of the country, and there's a lot more to discover, a lot more to review. But of course, we want to be respectful of everybody's hour that we have here. So if you would like more information, just email us there, webinar@ecidevelopment.com. You can put Panama Handbook in the subject line, and we can get that over to you. All right, next slide. And then this is the time now that we're going to open the floor for questions. So I apologize again, everybody, for that little blip with the connectivity before, but I appreciate those of you who have all stayed on here with us. So I'm not sure if I'm able to see all of the recordings or all of the questions there, Ivan, so you may have to read some to me since we hopped on again a little bit afterwards. But I see the first one here came in at 4:32 our time, so we may have to have some of you resubmit. Super sorry. But Perry here said, question, language challenges for only English speakers. Yeah, that's a really great question. So Perry, you are able to get by in Panama with only knowing English. However, I would highly recommend that you do end up taking Spanish lessons. There are many Spanish schools throughout Panama, and it'll just make everything so much easier. Now, with that being said, you're still able to get by, but it'll slow down some things that you're trying to do. What I would recommend also is you can go to those schools, you can hire a tutor, or you can find somebody who is bilingual and able to help navigate you through it initially. But in the meantime, like going through residency and all of that, we have an attorney or coordinator who you work with who's totally bilingual. But for the day-to-day things, I would recommend that you do start to learn Spanish. And I know it's a lot easier said than done. I get it. But when you're there, try to allocate some time to learning another language. I see Shelly said all possibilities. Not totally sure what that was in reference to, but I think you're thinking about perhaps relocating or maybe spending time, or who knows. Perry is asking how they reacted to COVID. So I think like many of the other countries in the world, they just really weren't too sure what to do. So there were lockdowns, there were curfews, there were days that men went out, there were days that women went out, but they adjusted based on what they felt was working or not. If you're looking for a country that didn't have any regulations, that didn't require anything, Perry, I would highly recommend that you look at Nicaragua. Nicaragua has really been a country that has let people make their own decisions about how they want to react to COVID. But Panama did have a bit of stricter measures compared to other countries. And Perry's also asking about the healthcare system with regards to chiropractic, acupuncture, yoga, organic food, vitamin stores. You can find all of that there. Boquete and a lot of the other places within Panama. I know I have a friend who actually teaches yoga in Bocas del Toro. So you are able to find that there should you choose. And that's the nice part too about Panama as a whole, Panama City, and then even the bigger expat communities, is there are a lot of people who have the same mindset, who want to eat organic food, who don't want that processed food and want to have their healthy vitamins. And so you're able to really find that there. And because it is a big population, it's a diverse population, you have your options. All right, this is another great question. I'm not rich, I'm not poor, but I would like to make an income. I probably need to make an income. Are there decent skilled jobs available? A great question, Perry. And we get questions like this tending to be on most of our webinars that we do about different countries. There are jobs available. You would need to get a work permit in order to get a job there. So you apply for your Friendly Nations visa. Once you get your Friendly Nations visa, then you can apply for your work permit. Once you get your work permit, then you are able to get jobs. Now, I would like to mention that Latin America and in these developing countries, the pay is very different than what it is in North America or in developed countries. So if you're planning to come down and make the same sort of income that you made from your previous job in your home country, it's probably not going to happen. Now, cost of living is less, so you won't have as many expenses. But what I would recommend and what I've seen a lot of people doing is trying to transfer over to a digital job where you're able to take your skills, wrap it up into some special service, and then be able to do that from your computer or remotely. And with this whole age of remote working and digital nomads, and especially over the last year, we've seen this more than ever, people being able to pick up their computers and live anywhere in the world. And so they are coming down to places like Belize. I mean, here, Leslie has a handful of friends that are digital nomads. We know a lot of people who are coming here and they start like, all right, we'll be here for a month or two. And then they stay 6, 7, 8 months later, they're still here, but they have the ability to do that. We're seeing the same thing in Panama, same thing in Nicaragua. I mean, just generally across the world, especially this time of year where it's cold up north. Here we're sitting in 81-degree tropical weather, but that would be my recommendation, Perry, if you're able to. I know not all jobs are transferable to the internet, but if you're able to start digitizing what you're doing, I think you'll feel a lot more comfortable with a move overseas in terms of financial security. Oh, John, great question. He said, can I use the Canadian RRSP to get into the TEEK investment? Unfortunately, Canadian retirement accounts are not able to go international. If you have a US retirement account, you are able to do international through self-directed IRA, but I'm sorry, I get that question a lot, John. I wish I had a better answer for you there. Ben is asking about a bank account. Can a bank account be set up from the US, or does one have to be there in person to do so? Great question. So Ben, you can start with the bank account process online. You'll work with the coordinator. She'll submit all the documentation for you, but you do eventually need to be there in person for them to authorize and open the account. It is a know your client basis in Panama, so they do require that they see you. There may have been some flexibility with COVID, perhaps in doing Zoom meetings instead of going in person, but you can talk about the residency coordinator with that. I know a lot of the offices are starting to open up again, so you may be required to be there in person, but just then reach out to us and we can put you in touch with the coordinator. And then Leo saying, yes, is it possible to go to Panama for residency and wait there for approval rather than return to your home country? Absolutely, Leo. And so you're able to do that. When you go into Panama, most nationalities, you're able to get a tourist visa for 180 days. Some countries it's 90 days, some days it's less, some countries it's less than that. But I would highly recommend that. That's a great way for you to learn more about your country and your new country and figure out where it is you want to be spending time. Yes, I read in several sites that you need to visit Panama each 2 years to keep residency. Is the one visit every 6 years something new? Yes. So you are able to just visit one day every 6 years and maintain it. It's happened about, I don't know, a few months ago, maybe about a year ago, where they've updated that one visit every 6 years. And then is it 10 million, 10 for Friendly Nations visa, 10,000 minimum investment or real estate investment or both? I think I understand your question. It has to be in real estate investment, a $10,000 real estate investment. And then from there, you are able to apply for your residency. Does the cost of living quoted include primary residence? I'll have to go back to that chart and see what was all included in it, Mike, but just send us an email and we can send you what that breakdown includes. All right, let's see here. Ease or difficulty of getting pets into the country. It is fairly easy to do so. We have a document that will guide you how to do that. So if you'd like to get that, we would be happy to send it over to you. It probably also depends on what kind of pet you're talking about. Cats and dogs really is what we're primarily talking. I've had some people want to bring some pretty interesting pets in, and they did not allow that. So cats and dogs is what we're referring to when we say pets. Christopher is asking about the financing options, the terms, the rates, etc. So for our specific projects with our real estate development, we offer either 50 or 80% financing. If you're financing 50%, then it's 4.9% interest. It can be up to 30-year amortization term, but there's a 5-year balloon. You are able to refinance after the 5 years, but I can't guarantee what the rates are. It is with an international bank, so it's subject to their rates. If you're financing 80%, it's 6.9% interest. Up to 30-year amortization, it's a 5-year balloon. And when I say up to 30-year amortization, is because you have that ability to do 5-year or through 30-year, depending on what you want your monthly payments to look like and what you want your balloon payment to look like. So just bear that in mind as you are thinking about it. And we can crunch numbers for you. If you're looking at a specific property, we can certainly crunch numbers for you. But I do want to mention that financing part for a moment. Is it's not uncommon in this part of the world, if you're a foreigner coming in and your financing terms being anywhere between 10 to 13% interest, you're a foreigner getting a loan in another country. So they understand that there's a demand for it and they're going to charge you for it. So I've been pretty happy with the fact we've been able to get 4.9 and 6.9% interest, but just note that we can't guarantee it after that 5-year balloon period. With the TEAC, we have payment schedules. So it's $5,000 down for the teenage parcels, and then the balance paid in 6 equal installments over the 6-month period. And then if you're doing the newborn parcels, you need to at least 2 in order to qualify for the financing there. All right, so Robert is saying, has Panama opened back up? Yes, Panama is open again. And the internet in the metro areas is just dependent entirely on the area that you're in and how developed it is. Boquete, David, fantastic. Coronado, fantastic. If you're going into the countryside, I would expect it to be just because nobody's really developed that area for infrastructure and internet. All right, I'm seeing a lot of questions come through. We still have about 6 more minutes. So what we'll do is we'll go through as many questions here as we can. And then if we don't get to your question, then we will get to it. Send us an email and we'll get to it via email with one of our team members. Perry is asking about pursuing the Nicaragua and Panama paths simultaneously. Yeah, you're definitely able to do that. And I would recommend it. It's a great way for you to provide yourself with options. And Panama, we mentioned it's the $10,000 invested in the TEAC or in real estate, and then you're able to get the Friendly Nations visa. In Nicaragua, you need to invest $30,000 or more. You'll title the name of your property in a Nicaragua corporation. The residency attorney will help you with that. And then from that $30,000 investment in the Nicaragua corporation, you'll be able to apply for residency. John is asking about the education system, including universities. So Panama, I mean, there are certain pockets of the country that have better education and schools than others. Panama City is definitely the strongest in that regard. And the reason being that it's such an international hub. So you have people from all across the globe. So you have the German school, the American school, the French school, the Spanish school, I guess we have, but you have, you know what I mean? You have these different schools there that meet international standards. So it's quite good. There are some good universities there too. So I don't know, John, if you have a child or someone that you're planning to bring into the country, But we can certainly talk about those options for you. But the strongest schooling would be within Panama City. But reality of it all now is a lot of these schools have gone digital. So it's pretty neat because if you do have a kid in the education system, just open up the computer, get started on working, and you're able to be anywhere in the world and still part of the school system. So really, really good question there. Jeff is asking about the minimum balance you need to keep in the Panamanian bank. So at the time of going through residency, you need, it's $5,000 and then $2,000 per dependent that you have joining you. So if it's you and your spouse, you'll need $7,000 in the bank account at the time that you're going through residency. Once you get your residency, then you're able to do with the money as you please. Most people just tend to keep it as a savings account, contribute, a couple bucks to it every year just to keep it active. But I think the minimum balance will depend, Jeff, on the bank that you're with. But in terms of the residency, you need the minimum of $5,000 for the primary applicant, and then and then $2,000 for every dependent thereafter. All right, so I'm seeing here, yep, so I see the question came through twice about 1 day every 6 years. Brian is asking about the mask requirement. Brian, I would recommend that you look at Nicaragua. Nicaragua does not require masks. If you feel comfortable wearing it, people wear it. If you don't want to wear it, you don't have to. But that would be my recommendation. But otherwise, I think it's very difficult to find places that aren't requiring masks at this point. All I know about is Nicaragua. So I hope that helps, Brian. We're happy to guide you in the right direction there. It's a place I lived for a while. It's a place where a lot of our team members are currently based as well. Leslie's heading over there tomorrow to Nicaragua. So there's definitely great opportunities in the country. All right. Do you recommend any companies to tour these various places for residency? I think I understand your question there, Matthew. If you're looking for a primary residence, we can certainly recommend some folks to you. I also like to get a better understanding of what it is that you're looking for specifically and what sort of area, so we can make sure we are able to guide you in the right direction. All right, Gregory is saying another canal being built a couple of years ago. Yeah, so in Panama, they expanded the canal that they had to let the biggest boat be able to come through. And then I heard they built an even bigger boat that didn't fit through the canal, but that's fine. I'm sure they'll do an expansion at some point. And then I think, Gregory, you may be talking about Nicaragua. In Nicaragua, there were rumors about the canal going through, and there were a lot of Chinese people who came in to teach the local Nicaraguans how to make Chinese food. So we really thought it was moving forward. This was back in 2016, 2017. And then they did not end up moving forward with it. I think, after reassessing how much it's going to cost, it just didn't make sense at the end of the day. But there have been rumors about it. And I think, a big part is the environmental aspect of, going through this big Lake Nicaragua and not doing any damage. So we'll see. I mean, that's my best answer there. We'll see. Everything in this region takes a little bit more time. All right. So Charles is asking about, is the huge Panama City International Airport renovation expansion completed? So last time I was there last year, it was still in the works. A few of the new gates had opened, but that second terminal as a whole did not open entirely, but it was starting to be opening up. So it is getting even more enjoyable to get to Panama City because there are the expansions there. All right, so let's see. That was from Charles. Awesome. David is asking about the interest rate on a CD in a local bank. David, I would recommend that we introduce you to our coordinator, residency coordinator. She can tell you all about that. I know for when I opened up a bank account there, I think it was like 2%. So it was a little bit better than, a lot better than what it is in the States. But it obviously also depends on the amount that you're putting into your Panama bank account, because it could be more than that. Juanita saying, super interested in tiny home option. Can I convert my current IRA as an option to finance? Yes, you definitely can do that. But just note, and this is for American citizens, if you're using your IRA or self-directed IRA, it's strictly for an investment. So you cannot personally go down and use it. It cannot be self-serving. You cannot apply for residency. It strictly is for an investment. So bear that in mind. I recognize your name. So glad to see your name pop up here. We'll have our team reach out to you and talk to you more about the tiny homes there. So, All right. Well, everybody, a lot of really great questions. Some of them I know we didn't get to. If we didn't get to yours, just reach out to us at webinar@ECI Development with your questions so we can get it answered for you. I would love to make sure we get everything answered. And in the meantime, thank you all for staying on the line with us. I know we had that little tech glitch, but I'm glad to see most of you at this point that are still on. And thank you, Leslie, for joining as well. Do you have any last words you want to share with the group here?
No, I just excited to visit with a couple of you the rest of this week and discuss Panama and your needs and goals. So give us a shout and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a really great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.